Welcome to another episode of TIDES. I'm your host, Shveta Malhan, managing partner and co founder at Yenza 3, where we help HR and business leaders navigate AI driven change so that their organizations can adapt, adopt, and thrive. Today, we are diving into how artificial intelligence is shaking up the world of learning and development. And to help us navigate these fast moving waters, I'm joined by someone with deep global experience in L&D, Shahid Najmi. Shahid has led teams through some of the most significant shifts in corporate training and talent development, and he's got first hand insights on how AI is radically changing everything from onboarding to upskilling. We'll be covering real success stories, practical takeaways for teams and who are just getting started, and a peek at what L&D might look like in the next few years. If you're in HR, talent development, or just curious about the future of work, stay tuned. This one is for you. So let's jump right in. Welcome to the show, Shahid.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here because we may not have worked on the same projects, but I think we worked for two organizations at the same time, right? So it's been years. I'm really excited to be here.
Same here, Shahid. I mean, it's everything is timing, right? Like our paths have crossed again for a purpose, for a reason, and I'm looking forward to this conversation with you.
Me too.
So let's start, Shahid. You've been in L&D space for quite some time now. So from your vantage point, why is AI such a game changer in the learning and development world right now?
That's such a great question and a good one to start with. So AI, I think, is a game changer for L&D because it fundamentally changes the way we think about experience, scale, personalization, and speed. So the most exciting part isn't just what AI automate, but it's what it unlocks,
Mhm.
right? And when I look at viewpoints, I look at it from two viewpoints, right? The fun one part of it is the consumer side of things. For the first time, you have a technology that can actually learn alongside you, right? One that adapts, curates, responds in real time. So imagine every employee having a personalized coach. That's a huge benefit we didn't have, right? We always knew that we have to provide that first level of learning, but there was the reinforcement was always missing. So this AI tool can be an amazing game changer for learning professionals. In the other perspective is the developer's side, right? So I always see it as a software tool versus a cognitive tool, right? So we always work with the software tools to create the output, but we needed people who can actually design, who could research, who could think, outline. So work was very much dependent on those two things, and I'm seeing the line getting blurred, which
Hmm.
is fantastic as well because now I don't need an army of specialists. I don't need that much of time or the budget or approvals.
Hmm.
Team can actually move faster. So we can do these things much faster, cheaper, and in many cases a lot better. And for
Yeah.
me, faster is a lot better as well, so that we can quickly experiment and adjust. So I think that freedom that it gives the team to move away from the very monotonous manual tasks, it frees up your team to actually think deeper, ask more questions, spend more time in and thinking about the solutions and problems, in fact. So that has been game changer. Like it's moving at such a fast pace that is allowing the team to actually do a lot more than what we used to always do.
And how do you see the learner expectations changing with the seismic shifts that we are seeing right now due to variety of forces of change that are in play?
So one very recent is of course the pandemic, right? So, but I think that what pandemic has changed is the collaboration space, right? Where teams are working together. We don't have to be in same location. So that mindset of leaders is changing that yes, I can have a person working from a very different location, but they can be effective, they can be engaged. But I think this shift has been happening since the launch of the first iPhone, right? And the
Mhm.
apps and social media. And the gap between, I believe personally, like the gap between the consumer experience and the corporate learning environment or corporate learning experience has been widening. So people outside work, we are all used to very intuitive, fast, engaging work and platform and experience. But when it comes to learning, we still find it so clunky. Some of the applications that we use for work, I mean, it's very safe to say they're clunky, right? You have
Yeah.
to actually spend a ton of time and budget and money to buy either traditional learning or the in context learning, but it's still UX is pretty bad.
Yeah.
My perspective when it comes to experience and expectations, Shweta, is that I never consider our users as learners. So I will always say learners are not, they're not captive users anymore, right? They're not captive audience.
Mm-hmm.
We are all competing with distractions, not just at work, meetings, etc., but we have news on our work phones, we have entertainment, social media. So all these experience that we see outside our work, we see a contrast at work, and we're like, why can't we have an application like my bank application, right? Why can't I have it so simple where I can actually do it without thinking? So those expectations have been the benchmark now, and I think that's becoming more and more clear. And companies are trying to catch up, but there's still not much investment in that area. So that is one thing. But the nuance, I would say, working with manufacturing, I realize that not everything can be mobile as well. So in
Yeah.
manufacturing, for instance, you're not allowed to use a cell phone on the shop floor. So the traditional knowledge platforms and tools, they may fall short. So how do you think creatively and go and observe the environment and create something that works for even analog environments? So that's where we need to know where the users are and how are we going to create the experience that they expect in the outside world as well in today's time.
Yeah, yeah, that is so true. Like for the longest time, I feel learning and development, and broadly like HR as well, has been shackled because we didn't have the right tools and technologies to build consumer grade experiences for our internal customers. Like employees and learners are our internal customers. And the phrase that I've used for the longest time is let's unbox the learning experience. Like,
Mm,
why does everything need to be in a learning management system, or why
right,
do we have to pull people from their work context
right.
into a training context so that they can learn? Because we both have been such a champion of real life experiences, on the job learning. Like, how do we bring learning into my work context
Yeah,
instead me going and changing my context to a simulate to training environment all the
right.
time? And we didn't have the right technologies to do that in the past. And LMS has not been delivering a consumer grade experience. It is a box and you have to navigate. Like, if it takes me 5 clicks to get to what I'm looking for,
Yeah.
you've already lost me. I might as well Google and find my answer.
Well, I mean, it's that's such an interesting, of course, take that if it takes 5 clicks, even if it takes me 2 clicks to get there, I know it's going to be confusing once I enter it, right?
Yeah,
How do I enroll it? How do I? It's just we don't see people going back into the LMS after taking the first course, right?
yeah,
Like I won't get to see the same course twice, God forbid, right? So I want to move past.
yeah,
And you're right. I mean, this was a handicap for me, Shweta, honestly speaking, because I was not born in an instructional as an designer. I was not a PhD or an instructional design expert in any sense. But so I compensated that with my marketing experience, with advertising experience, and learning the business. So I was trying to make sense of all of this with a very different tool set, which has become a benefit now, right?
yeah.
So it's no longer saying if you just know how to design really good experiences in a box, like you're saying, you will be at a disadvantage because you're missing the bigger picture.
Yeah, 100%. And at the end of the day, marketing and learning professionals, the goal is the same. It's behavior change that we are aiming for,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, yeah, I totally hear you. Another thing that I used to feel very passionate about, I don't know if you've heard about the 70-20-10
Oh
framework.
yeah. Yeah.
It's like 100% of, close to 100% of an organization's investment goes in addressing the 10% learning, which is
Right.
the formal structured learning where we pull people out of their work context, whereas 70% is happening, or 90% is happening through peer-to-peer interactions and social learning. I think, what's your take on how AI enables that experience, how it brings that social peer-to-peer and just in time contextual learning into play?
So I look at this from the standpoint of knowledge management, right? So
Mm,
in an organization, say, people are our biggest assets. Every organization is going to say that. But what my take is like, what's inside people's head is the most important asset, right? Companies won't care if Shahid Najmi was working for the company and had no contextual information, right? If I have that wealth of knowledge, they would want to retain me, right? That's where
mm,
my value comes in. So I look at it as knowledge economy in the organization. So how can we convert the tacit knowledge that sits in people's mind and convert that into explicit knowledge? And we've been battling with that, not knowing that there is something like AI brewing in someone's lab. So we were
Hmm.
like, how do we convert that? So we were creating chat environments where people can talk to each other. So the 70 and the 20, of course, is if I tackle the 20%, which is the exposure part, right? Learning from peers, identify the people that are in the organization that have that understanding and knowledge, and look at it from the lens of supply and demand, right? We're always short on subject matter experts. We knew that we're going to retire and then we have newer people joining in. How do I create or convert that knowledge from those people into that tacit knowledge to, tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge?
Hmm.
Now you can do it with AI. You
Yeah.
can have the database of all the conversations. You can have the work that they have published, and you can change that equation of supply and demand and create agents that actually answer the question, right? And there is no limit to that possibility. You could have, with using some of the AI tools, I can have your avatar, you can have other people. You don't have to show up.
Hmm.
It will answer the question. So I look at it from that standpoint that we need to start building that knowledge base for the company. So you take the suspense out, you make it almost, it's people independent,
Yeah.
people agnostic, but the 70%, which is experiential, will come in with people trying hands on, right? In manufacturing specifically, you cannot just read things and say, oh, I understand now, I know how to operate that machine. You have to actually have the experiential learning. And when it comes to human skills like coaching, feedback, setting the direction for the company, that has to come from a human being,
Yeah.
from the CEO, from the leaders, and that has to come down like this. So I think the 70-20-10 has to be relooked at from AI standpoint, like I described, but it's still very relevant. It's a model. Nobody cares
Yeah.
about what 70, 20, and 10%, but
That's right. That's right. I totally agree with you that AI is a force that is unlocking the potential of how we bring the 90% of experiential learning to life, whether it's connecting the
absolutely.
right people with the right mentors or peers, or whether you bring contextualized learning into my work experience.
Yeah.
The system that I'm operating in at work, if I'm looking for how to create a pivot table, please do not recommend a course on Excel to me
Right.
because I have a deliverable to my leaders and I don't have time to sit through a 1 hour course to consume that 5 minute of relevant content for me. And
Yeah.
now AI can help us build that ecosystem. To your point,
Absolutely.
our goal is to codify that knowledge so that we can, delivery channels are no longer a challenge.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Those limitations are gone.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about the learning and development team. You mentioned that AI has a significant impact on how the value of learning and development team, the organization of learning and development team, and the skill set of L&D professionals. So how does AI impact that, the back end side of how learning experiences are designed and brought to life?
So I think everybody at this point is experimenting with AI, right? All the
Mhm.
learning development teams, some more than others. But I think the most important aspect is to relook at the workflow, right?
Mhm.
How we used to create learning experience was very sequential when we were thinking that, oh, we are very modern right now. We are creating so many digital experiences. It was still very linear, that you
Yeah.
have to go talk to the customer and consumer and understand what they need, and then you have to design and outline and then go content, and all of that is shrinking and changing. So the time that we used to consume for researching, let's say, within 10 minutes you have deep research on everything, right?
Yeah.
The topic that you have. And now the instructional designers, they don't have to write from the scratch. Like they can actually feed the design within minutes.
Mhm.
They can actually come up with the content chunking or the modules or experiences without waiting several days and weeks.
Mhm.
So that has forced the teams to actually create shorter experiential modules, which are like, let's quickly find something, adjust it and see if it works. What used to take weeks or months is
Mhm.
taking within a single day. You can actually go from a very basic concept
Yeah.
to a finished output that can be used in real life. So
Mhm.
I think that is changing. But at the same time, if the learning development teams are not actually experimenting with AI, they're not being flexible and they're stuck in the old ways, they will miss out a big opportunity here.
Mm.
So that's the thing that I think learning leaders will have to figure out, how to engage the entire team, create that environment where people are not worried about failure. You should encourage people to fail fast and fail often, so that you can see that they are getting into avenues where we never been to, and you will be able to come up with not just one workflow but several workflows depending on what you're trying to create. So I think you
Mm.
have to create that environment where people are not super worried about, I'm doing this project and here's my timeline. Like, how can you experiment and create things on the fly, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where I'm also trying to help my team to build that strength. And the other side, I'm asking my team to actually ask a lot of questions, right? So that you know that you're solving the right problem.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, my handicap was this, that I will ask a ton of questions of you. I will not assume that I know or you know.
Mhm.
And team is reluctant at this point because they're like, well, we always ask them what they need and we were able to create what they needed.
Yeah.
Now you're asking me to ask the question, and stakeholders will be upset. Like, why are you asking a bunch of questions? Why don't we just go and do it? I told you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
So in a way, L&D professionals are also becoming like moving a little upstream where they're becoming strategic partners and consultants to the business to understand
Absolutely.
what problem are we trying to solve for, what
Yes.
behavior change are you looking for, and why.
Yes.
So that you can create content. Creation is no longer a challenge. That's
Yes.
not where most of the time is going to go. Completely
Absolutely.
hear you. What is your take on AI agents? I know the AI space is emerging so fast. Just generative AI has given us so much flexibility and freedom, to your point, to collect content, to make sense of content, to even write content, and in a variety of formats. And then there are tools like Midjourney, or now the latest 4.0 chat GPT version of creating visuals.
Yes.
It's disrupted the traditional workflow in a big way. Now anybody who's curious can play with tools to bring an experience to life.
Yes.
But I want to talk about specifically AI agents. That hasn't hit the L&D space fully yet
Yes.
because it's an emerging space. But when it does hit the organizational context, how do you see that impacting the workflow?
I think it will change the way, and I don't know if we are ready for that or not, but it
Hmm.
will change the way learners or users or employees consume information or instructions. So um, we were talking about systems. I really do not like creating systems training. I don't want my team to spend any time on creating systems training. So I've been pushing this strategy for
Hmm.
business to own it. I will give you the strategy, create short modules, record it, and let people consume it. Don't do
Yeah.
any classroom. Don't do any webinar, please.
Yeah.
Do office hours for help them to
Yeah.
help them. But when you have agents, like I said, the demand and supply problem is solved quickly,
Yeah.
but you have a very powerful tool. So you have to absolutely know what you're trying to solve for. And then the second thing is, what's the foundation of all that information that chat is agent is giving you? If you attach it to clunky data or unstructured data, it's going to make sense of the wrong data and give you things and directions that are not accurate, right? So if you
Yeah.
look at HR systems, for example, you have old policies sitting on SharePoints.
Yeah.
Those are digital junkyards.
Hmm.
Nobody goes there. It's dumped there. People who created those policies or documents are maybe have left the company and nobody finds it, but AI is going to find it. It's going to
Yeah.
find the wrong information and tell you the wrong leave policy or education policy. And you'll be like, I asked the agent and gave me that information. So that's the struggle at this point. It is a massive effort. And I think
Hmm.
there has to be a layer of AI to actually go and check and work with the humans to figure out what's correct, what's not correct.
Yeah.
Some of the functions we are experimenting, not particularly my team, but one of the businesses in our organization is working with agents, and but they have created a different environment altogether because they know they can maintain um, the life cycle of the
Yeah.
documents. They have the
Yeah.
managers assigned and people who are owners who will be responsible for upgrading that. But that's creating a parallel thing here.
Mm.
When people have to find something, they go here. But if they're talking to the agent, they're getting different answer. So you
Yeah.
have to actually go through that journey. But I think that will fundamentally change where
Yeah.
we focus on behaviors, human skills, leadership skills,
Mhm.
culture.
Yeah.
That's all is going to happen with agent of with human in the loop with us. And majority of the stuff that was there because of poor UX is going to be taken over by agents.
Yeah. 100% agree. And I think there's also potential for agents to even further speed up the workflow. You were talking about the build workflow. Like
Yeah.
I can have an instructional design agent for me who can go and speak to the SME and say, hey, Shweta is trying to build XYZ course. Can you give me some contextual information that might not be available outside my organizational environment? Or to your point, the knowledge management in my organization is not like at a high maturity. So there are five versions of the same document. I don't know which one to refer to as I'm creating a course. So that agent can be doing the work on my behalf instead of me sitting and waiting for an appointment, waiting for the availability of SME to get the context and the information,
Absolutely.
right?
So one of the things that I'm talking to my AI team at Bungie is to help me create an agent that can actually, it's a much smarter chatbot, of course, to
Uh-huh.
talk to the stakeholders they want learning. So if they request
Yeah.
my COE, that
Uh-huh.
agent is going to talk and have the conversation that one of my team members will initially have. So they don't have to fill out a static form. It will take the input and will fill it out for them. But
Uh-huh.
in the process, it will also ask a bunch of questions that are based on what the input is from the stakeholders.
Yeah.
And it could also push back saying, well, do you really think it's a learning issue? This looks like an
Mhm.
XYZ issue. So you could filter some of those things without them knowing that they're talking to
An agent.
a machine or AI. But I think, yes, you're right. I mean, it is going to fundamentally change. And that's why learning all of these things and experimenting will be the key for us.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious, as you partner with your internal IT team, I know when we are sitting in HR or L&D, depending on how L&D teams are structured in an organization, we are typically an enablement team. We are not revenue generating business unit. So the priority for our asks is probably not that high in the priority list. What has your experience been partnering with internal IT team to get support for the work that you're looking for? What kind of challenges and issues have you faced, and what have been the successes like?
That's a very, very compelling question. I think everyone is asking and they're getting guidance on.
Mm-hmm.
My experience is very different. A few
Mm-hmm.
things, right? One is how you approach them and when you approach them, and
Yeah.
how do you actually collaborate with them. So, how you approach them is you have to take a business case, right? Most of the IT teams with focus, sorry, so let me back up. So, most of the IT teams have an AI team
Mm.
within them, right? So they're also recognizing that people are experimenting with AI, they're buying tools they should not, they're putting company at risk. So they have a consolidated, focused AI team. Our
Mm-hmm.
organization has the same. They're building the team really, really fast. So they need use cases. They need people who can actually give them business case and ROIs. So I approach them with the numbers, right? So
Mm.
if they have a translation request, we save some $300,000 for in translations. And I said, hey, using your tool, I was able to save this. That becomes a story for them to say, we need more people. We need to
Mm.
experiment here because we spend millions of dollars in translations every year. 95% of that can be saved through
Yeah,
AI tools.
yeah.
So that's number one. Number two is when do you approach them? When they're still building it.
Mm.
When they establish shop, they don't need you. You need them. So you need to stand in that queue. So I am the top requester or a collaborator with my AI team today, and my team is the number one user for their AI tools, right? So that's that. And the third thing is collaborators. How do you collaborate with them? Because you have to think about legal and risk and the teams who understand what is at risk. So if you take the traditional approach and see that procurement and legal and these people are only slowing things down, imagine go in their shoes and think about it. They're helping save potential lawsuits on you and your company, and safeguarding you and your company by looking at the risks for the game that has no rules yet.
Yeah.
So you need humility to understand you don't know everything. You don't know where and how they think. They've been
Mm.
doing this for several years and decades, and they have a lot of experience. So you should go there with collaboration mindset, saying, how do I help you? What
Mm-hmm.
answers can I provide you? And in my case, I started with my team, with legal team, of course, with the little bit of back and forth saying, why is this taking so much of time? And I quickly realized after one meeting that, no, let them do their job. We can wait. So a little bit of wait and that rapport building in the beginning is going to take you a long way because it will help you accelerate your request in the future. Now, when I request, they know that Shahid is coming with a logical request. He understands what is at risk. And I introduce the vendor partners to the legal team saying, You need to go through this. There is no
Mm.
shortcut here. We're not going to take any shortcuts.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. And building that rapport is more important. Find out the people that you need to collaborate with and start collaborating with them right now.
Yeah, which is such an amazing and important point that you make, that traditionally a learning and development leader didn't have to build cross-functional alliances outside of L&D
Yes,
or their immediate stakeholders. But this is an opportunity for an L&D leader and an executive to flex their muscles and be okay to go and speak to legal or be okay to speak to IT and see how you can build those partnerships and alliances and learn to speak their language too, which is a very important point that you made.
absolutely.
Going to IT with business language and numbers will get you much farther ahead versus speaking the traditional L&D language.
Absolutely. And an L&D team will be able to get the seat on that table. So it's not just you helping the AI team or IT team.
Hmm.
They're helping you, give you a voice, because the ELT members and the CEO and the CHR, they're all going to know that, oh my God, these people are really saving a lot of money. We've been historically spending millions of dollars by using AI tool. They're not, they're at least cutting the outside spend.
Yeah.
So when I joined my company here, we were, of course, just like any other organization, we've been spending a lot of money on creating very tactical stuff. And when they saw that by using just really simple 3 or 4 tools, we were able to get what we used to pay for in
Hmm.
hundreds and thousands of dollars, it's a very simple thing. So
Yeah.
now you are seen as a business person who understands the context. So it gives you a leverage as well. It's not
Yeah.
just for you helping the AI team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. I want to also circle back to the impact on teams like the L&D teams. With all these new tools emerging, what kind of successes or resistance are you experiencing or seeing with people in the team? Like, is there fear of job, or are people like holding back? What's your observation? Like, maybe in your organization or even broadly in the industry?
Right. So I want to carefully approach this, okay, because
Mhm.
without sounding judgmental. But so if you look at from general employee perspective, not just L&D team, there is
Mhm.
a lot of concerns in leaders who have crossed a certain stage in their career. They're like, oh my God, now I had to learn all of these things, and now I have to learn AI. So they're freaking out a
Mhm.
little bit,
Mhm.
where they are not ready to experiment. And I've worked with leaders who say, well, don't talk about AI. It's everywhere right now. Yeah, my cousin, my cousin's daughter, and so, they all
Mhm.
use AI tools nowadays. But I still use a calculator. This was a real conversation with somebody.
Mhm.
I'm like, I understand their perspective. They're very sharp people, but they are
Mhm.
getting tired of the changes, right?
Yeah.
But there are other users as well, or leaders. When we give them AI tools, they worry about the conversation. They're like, well, you are asking me to talk to this AI coach. Who's monitoring this conversation?
Mhm.
And how's it going to come back and bite me? So
Mhm.
can I be authentic and ask those questions? They
Mhm.
are worried. So I
Yeah.
had to explain it to them, saying, nobody, as I deploy the tool, I cannot actually see what conversations you're having. And it's
Mhm.
all inside a box. It's not going outside. So then you see adoption grow more.
Mhm.
But there are concerns. Now, on the other side, in L&D teams, I see a lot more excitement. Yes, there is a little bit of fear,
Yeah.
but that fear has to be conquered by experimentation. So if L&D teams, I'm giving them really small, meaningful work where they can actually do something for me. So if one of the team members, I gave her, here's what I had a concept in PowerPoint. Why don't you go ahead and convert them into a small short video? She
Mhm.
did it. In the process, she learned 3 different tools. That gives the confidence, because they see, there's a sense of purpose, there is progress, and that works like dopamine. Then I'm going to do something more. How about if I use this here and that there? So I don't see a lot more fear if the teams are experimenting. But if the leader and the leaders are cautious a lot more, saying, well, we need to wait. It's at rest. We don't want to do it. We don't want to get into it. And we are seeing some of that in some of the organizations. That is going to um, stall the progress for L&D teams. And they will feel left behind in a year, because world would have moved so fast, right? So if you're not catching up, you'll be like, oh my God, and now there's no way I can catch up. There is no way.
Yeah, yeah. And there are certain roles. I'm thinking about like a typical L&D team makeup. You have people who are front-ending the relationship with the business. You
Right.
call them learning business partners. Different companies have different names for them. Then you have the instructional designers. I mean, of course, you can have program managers depending on how the volume of work that you're managing. But then you have instructional designers, you have graphics designers, you have editors, you have technical people. Which of these roles are going to be most concerned? Like, from my vantage point, I feel like it's easier for an instructional designer to acquire skills of a graphics person
Yes.
versus a graphics person translating or moving into an instructional design capability, right?
Mhm.
And the world of graphics is significantly shifted.
Yes.
Of course, an ID will not never have the design principles and how to look at the layout and the visual design components of it, but just we don't need stock photos.com anymore,
Yeah.
right? Like, so
Yeah.
there's, anyways, I'm rambling, but what do you
No,
think?
I think that we still have to go a long way. If you
Mhm.
look at when you find a tool, it's new, it's shiny, and it gives you
Yeah,
excitement when you see something that you created, right? You write a
yeah.
prompt and it throws you an image of Pixar style, whatever, and you're like, oh my God. But the question is like, so what?
Hmm.
Right? You're creating a lot of digital junk that is not going to help, right? So you have to think about how the instructional designers, the people who are doing the consulting work with the business, acting as the conduit, and then the graphic designers, how can they elevate their level of influence on the experience overall? So you have to
Hmm.
basically involve the team from the get-go. Like we was talking about the sequential nature, sequential.
Yeah.
You have to work like a very small startup. That's how I operate in all the organizations or with the teams, that I'll put everybody together from programmers to graphic designers to say, okay, let's come up with the concepts and brainstorm the ideas. That's where you will see that it's not just the output they are proud of, they're proud of the problem they are trying to solve. So falling in love with product is so easy, but how do you fall in love with the problem to say, Shweta has a better idea. She may not be graphically so educated in
Mm-hmm.
those terms, but she has a brilliant idea. So why would I not listen to her?
Mm-hmm.
Shweta was a trained instructional designer and a consultant, but she has this power now, so she can actually create something that gives a lot more visualization to the graphic designer. Say, oh, I can create something much better. Let me help you there. So I think the overall team dynamic needs to change and people will start seeing the value. But if you're doing just handoff, old way of operating,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll not see that benefit.
You speak to the point that the tools are not just augmenting us, but they're fundamentally change how we show up and create value in organizations. The structure, the framing of an organization is also going to change and evolve. Beautiful point, Shahid. So we also look at AI and look at the maturity of AI adoption in organizations. Some organizations are much further ahead, like yours, and some might be early on in their journey and are still hesitant. So, what would you say for to the teams who are just getting started? What's the best low hanging fruit for them to get started on this journey, where they'll feel the least amount of friction or barriers?
So I look at this as change, and change is very emotional. It's
Mm-hmm.
personal. A lot of things actually can stop you from moving, like the jargons that people are throwing around. That okay, this learning models and foundational models, and then every day you have a version, ChatGPT 4, 5, and others, and you have Gemini. The idea I would say is to just start
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, whichever feels more natural to you. Like if you're a graphic designer, start experimenting with basic image generation. Learn how to prompt because it will take you time. The first time you're like, writer's block. I don't know what to write. I don't know. And then you'll realize that now some of these engines are giving you prompt generators as well. Just start somewhere and you will get better over a period of time. Save the first thing that you generated from AI and look back in a month's time and you'll be like, oh my God, I was such a, this was such a bad attempt. But the
Yeah.
thing is that you have to create that psychological safety with the team saying, nobody's looking at your prompt. Nobody's, so don't worry. It's not the browser history that I'm going to go and see what Shweta generated that day. Oh my God, how can she? So just
Yeah.
start talking to it, start working on it, and you will see progress. And then it will open the doors to the things that you're naturally inclined to. So if you're looking at videos, you will get there. Instructional designers and content designers, they're looking at learning things faster. So I
Mhm.
use, and I have that tool for some of my team members as well, instructional designers, Notebook LM, right?
Yeah.
You throw the sources, it gives you a podcast,
Yeah.
and you learn by listening to it while you're driving and whatnot. And you're like, huh, I have an idea now. So I'm going to go deeper into a specific topic. And there also customization helps. So I think my biggest thing would be just don't wait, lean in and jump in and start using it.
Yeah, what a nice way to put it, because at the end of the day, L&D folks have been helping others learn. This is the time for us to kind of flip that lens and say, okay, it's time for us to learn as well. And yeah, there's no better way to learn but to just jump in and experiment.
Yes. This is my life story. I was like insanely curious. I know I should not use that word, but I was super curious. And I grew up thinking that I was not good at anything. So I'm like,
Mhm.
my superpower is going to be to learn as much as I can.
Yeah,
So if you approach today saying, I do not know anything, I want to start somewhere, just start
yeah,
asking questions. And questions can be as basic as how humans learn,
yeah,
how the brain operates in the moment of time or change. How is your business making money? Like a lot of people do not really know what their products are, how they make money, where are the cost drivers. If you do not know, then you will miss the biggest opportunity, because people will not see you as the problem solver. They will still see you as there's someone who can execute, who can make really beautiful thing. And I would caution L&D people not to get stuck into that,
mm,
where people brand you as, oh, they work with AI to create beautiful videos or
yeah,
experiences. No, they should see you as problem solvers. That's how you will be able to grow in your career and create that influence. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in a loop where you're trying to make sense of all the shiny tools that are coming your way, because they were like, you're really good with AI, just experiment the tools and keep creating. No, you have to move a level up where
yeah.
you're able to see the problem irrespective of the tools. What's coming is there's a lot of overlap with AI tools.
Hmm.
So you will buy 10 tools that will do 5 things slightly differently. So
Yeah.
don't fall in that trap. Be more strategic to say, I don't care what tools come out, but this is how we're going to create compelling experiences, meaningful experiences that will change people's behavior and address business results, short term, long term. So I think that's the key.
I have a few questions as rapid fire for you as we
Oh
wrap up
boy.
our conversation today. And they're easy ones. So, can you name one AI tool that L&D leaders should explore today as they embark on this journey of learning, exploring, and evolving?
I would say not one, but two, right?
Okay.
ChatGPT, buy the paid version, not the $200 version one, but
Yeah.
$20. It's just super helpful, right? It becomes your personal coach. And the
Hmm.
second one I said, the Notebook LM, that's really phenomenal.
And what's one myth about AI in L&D that you'd love to bust?
L&D is going to be eliminated. It is not here to destroy us. It's here to transform us. So the real opportunity is shift from being content producers to be the creators of knowledge economy in the organization.
And the one skill every L&D pro should master?
Storytelling.
Hmm.
There is no way. If you take storytelling out, Shweta, from whatever you are creating, it's nothing. It's garbage. It's information. It's facts. It's structured data, unstructured data, but there's nothing. So storytelling is still, I see, a weak point in majority of L&D professionals. I'm not expert by any means. I'm also
Hmm.
learning, right? There are only 7 types of stories, but you can tell those stories several ways.
Yeah.
So how do you actually come up with different stories to tell for selling your concept of the idea to getting to the real problem, behavior change from when you implement this? You throw 5 skills at people and tell them you need to learn those 5 skills to be effective leader.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to come back and say, why not 3? Why not
Yeah.
7? Why 5? So you should have a compelling story that
Hmm.
actually makes sense for them to achieve their bigger why and find their value in the work they're doing. So I think that's storytelling is really, really the key skill for everyone.
All right. So, as we wrap up our episode today, my last question to you is that if you had to boil everything down into one core piece of advice for L&D leaders who are embracing AI, what would that be?
I would say get used to the change and have the intellectual humility to say that I may not be technology savvy or tech
Hmm.
savvy, But how can I ask the foundational questions on this side of the spectrum to really know what am I solving for? And then dive and lean in on this side to just start some basics experimentation. You'll be able to start seeing the connection between the two, and you'll start growing the influence with storytelling. I think that's what I will boil it to, because there is no other way to do it, because there are thousands of tools already.
Yeah.
So there's no way to just chase tools, but chase that. I think that will make a lot more sense.
And that wraps up another episode of Tides. Huge thanks to Shahid for sharing his perspectives on how AI is driving a whole new era of learning and development. Thank you, Shahid.
Thank you, Shweta. It was a pleasure.
And if you found value in this episode, go ahead and subscribe or share with your colleagues who are ready for the next step in L&D innovation. And as always, it's a reminder that transformation isn't just about upgrading technology. It's about upgrading our mindset. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the Tides podcast.